South Africa's fragile coalition politics are facing a new and potentially explosive test after the Constitutional Court of South Africa reopened the controversial Phala matter, forcing Parliament to reconsider whether President Cyril Ramaphosa should face a full impeachment inquiry. But what is now sending shockwaves through the country's political establishment is not only the court ruling itself. It is the response from the Democratic Alliance, the ANC's partner in the Government of National Unity. In remarks that could deepen tensions inside the coalition government, DA spokesperson Karabo Kaká made it clear that the party will not protect Ramaphosa simply to preserve political comfort inside the GNU. And that statement is now being interpreted by many analysts as a warning shot directly aimed at the ANC leadership. The Constitutional Court ruled that Parliament acted unlawfully when it rejected the Section 89 independent panel report into the Phala scandal, effectively reviving one of the most politically damaging controversies of Ramaphosa's presidency. The judgment orders Parliament to properly process the Section 89 report, reopening the possibility of a formal impeachment inquiry against the president. For opposition parties, the ruling has already been described as a major victory for constitutional accountability. But for the Government of National Unity, it creates a dangerous political dilemma. Because the DA now finds itself in a highly sensitive position, governing alongside the ANC while simultaneously being expected by its voters to hold the ANC accountable. And according to Kaká, the DA has chosen its side. Speaking after the ruling, she stressed that the party's commitment to ethics, constitutionalism, and clean governance remains unchanged, regardless of political alliances or coalition arrangements. The DA will not shield wrongdoing, Kaká said, insisting that the party's principles must apply equally to all public office bearers, even if that position creates discomfort inside the GNU. That message matters politically, because ever since the formation of the coalition government after the 2024 elections, critics have questioned whether the DA would eventually soften its stance against ANC corruption scandals in exchange for political influence inside government. Now, the Phala ruling may become the biggest test yet of whether the DA can balance governance cooperation with opposition-style accountability. And the timing could hardly be worse for the ANC. President Ramaphosa has spent months attempting to project stability, particularly as South Africa faces economic pressure, coalition uncertainty, and growing public frustration over service delivery failures. But the return of the Phala scandal threatens to reopen old political wounds that many inside the ANC hoped had been buried. The scandal itself dates back to the 2020 burglary at Ramaphosa's Phala game farm in Limpopo, where large sums of foreign currency linked to a buffalo sale were allegedly stolen. Questions surrounding the source of the money, the manner in which the theft was handled, and allegations of a possible cover-up quickly transformed the incident into a national political crisis. In 2022, an independent Section 89 panel concluded there was prima facie evidence suggesting Ramaphosa may have violated the Constitution and anti-corruption laws. At the time, Parliament, dominated by the ANC, voted against proceeding with an impeachment inquiry. Now, years later, the Constitutional Court has effectively ruled that Parliament failed its constitutional responsibilities when it blocked that process. The judgment carries consequences far beyond the legal technicalities, because it directly raises questions about whether political majorities can use parliamentary power to shield sitting presidents from scrutiny. And in many ways, that is why opposition parties have reacted so strongly to the ruling. The economic freedom fighters hailed the decision as proof that constitutional oversight cannot simply be neutralized through political voting numbers. Meanwhile, the DA's reaction has drawn even greater attention because of its unique role inside the coalition government. Political analysts say the ruling may expose deep contradictions within the GNU arrangement itself. On one hand, the coalition was formed to bring stability and cooperation after the ANC lost its outright majority. On the other hand, parties like the DA built much of their political identity around fighting ANC corruption and demanding accountability. Now, those two realities are colliding in public, and the implications could become even more serious if Parliament moves toward a formal impeachment process. Because the question would then become unavoidable: would GNU partners support Ramaphosa politically, or support constitutional accountability even if it destabilizes the coalition? That uncertainty is already fueling intense debate inside political circles. Some ANC supporters argue that opposition parties are using the courts and parliamentary procedures to weaken Ramaphosa politically rather than focusing on governance. Others argue the opposite. They believe the Constitutional Court ruling is a reminder that no political leader, not even the president, is above constitutional scrutiny. For many South Africans watching these developments unfold, the issue has become larger than Phala itself. It is increasingly about trust. Trust in Parliament, trust in accountability institutions, and trust in whether coalition politics will strengthen democracy or dilute oversight in exchange for political survival. The Constitutional Court's decision now forces Parliament back into the spotlight. Lawmakers must once again confront the Section 89 report and determine whether the country should proceed with a full impeachment inquiry into the president. And this time, the political landscape is very different from before. The ANC no longer controls Parliament with the same dominance it once did. Coalition dynamics matter more than ever, and parties inside the GNU are under growing pressure to prove that political cooperation does not come at the cost of constitutional accountability. For Ramaphosa, the challenge is not just legal, it is political. Because even if the impeachment process does not ultimately succeed, the reopening of the scandal risks weakening his authority at a time when his leadership already faces mounting pressure from both allies and opponents. And as Parliament prepares for another fierce battle over Phala, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The scandal that once threatened Ramaphosa's presidency is no longer just a closed chapter from the past. It is once again at the center of South Africa's future.